There's a character being controlled by the villain in this trailer, and most people are pointing at the wrong one entirely. The Savage Hulk is officially back. Bruce Banner may be gone, and the reason we know is one single line of dialogue. Peter Parker is fighting hand ninjas without his mask. Bare hand, no web shooters, and there are two very different explanations for how that's even possible. And there's something sitting in MJ's apartment that nobody's talking about, but it tells us exactly where she is in her life right now. Nobody saw this coming. Literally nobody. The Doomsday trailer had just dropped. Marvel fans were still processing it, rewatching every frame, debating Urge's accent and Thor's facial expression, and then Sony walked in and did something they haven't done since Spider-Man: Homecoming. They dropped a final trailer. Think about that for a second. Far From Home, No Way Home. Neither of them got a final trailer. Sony didn't need to do it. Those movies were going to open massive regardless. And Brand New Day is tracking the same way. Pre-sales are huge. The opening is expected to be enormous. There was absolutely no marketing reason to release anything else. And yet, 2 weeks before release, one day after the Doomsday trailer broke the internet, Sony released the final trailer for Spider-Man: Brand New Day, and it's one of the most deliberately restrained trailers Marvel has put out in years. Here's the thing though, restrained doesn't mean empty. If you know what to look for, this trailer is packed. The first half of this trailer isn't new footage, it's a recap, a montage of Tom Holland's entire run as Peter Parker, from his nervous debut in Civil War all the way through the gut-punch ending of No Way Home. And it plays over a voiceover of Peter reading the letter he wrote for Mir at the end of that film, the one he ultimately decided not to deliver, because he figured she'd be better off without the memory of him. If you've followed this character from the beginning, that recap hits harder than it has any right to. We've watched this version of Peter Parker go through more loss than almost any MQ hero, and that letter, still tucked inside the same coffee cup MJ served him in before everything fell apart, tells you he hasn't moved on, and that emotional weight is exactly the foundation this movie is being built on. When the actual trailer begins, we get our first real look at Peter's new apartment, and it immediately tells a story. The walls are unfinished. Things are visibly broken. In one corner, there's what looks like a generator, and the theory here is that Peter bought it cheap, probably repaired it himself, so he could power his fabricator and keep his Spider-Man tech running. Because that's his life now. He can't hold a job when he's spending his days swinging through Manhattan, and New York rent is New York rent. Interestingly, his bedroom looks noticeably cleaner, more put together than the first room. The theory that makes the most sense is that the bedroom sequence is set immediately after No Way Home, before things got genuinely difficult, and then the financial reality of surviving in New York alone, with no one who remembers who he is, kicked in. One more visual detail worth noting: the color grading in this trailer is clearly different from the first one. Everything pops more. The suit's black lines are sharper and more pronounced. It's a small change on paper, but on screen it makes a real difference. The movie is going to look good. Now, the Scorpion sequence. We get a slightly expanded version of the fight we've seen glimpses of before. Spider-Man catches Matt Gargan's stinger mid-strike, holds the whole tail, and asks him directly, "Do you really want to do this?" And Gargan's response is what everyone needs to pay attention to. He says, "Are you sure I'm Scorpion?" That line is doing a lot of work. Gargan is physically present, but something else is in the driver's seat. Some entity is controlling him, using his body, and taunting Spider-Man through it. Now, a lot of speculation has pointed towards Sadia Islam's character being Jean Grey, and the assumption has followed that Jean is the one hopping between people's bodies. But here's the thing, this villain's behavior doesn't track with Jean Grey at all. Jean is powerful, but she's not a manipulator in this way. The entity we're seeing is sadistic. It taunts Peter specifically and personally. Every single possession scene we've seen has it mocking Spider-Man, telling him it'll go after MJ, telling him it can't get into his mind, and now questioning his perception of who he's even fighting. That's a pattern. And whoever this is, it's not Jean. Scorpion's suit is also worth a close look. This is not his classic costume. It's a makeshift exosuit, essentially a mercenary outfit with a mechanical tail grafted onto it. Someone else built this for him, or supplied it, and when the tail isn't active, Gargan folds it behind him, which is actually exactly how real scorpions carry their stingers. That's a small detail, but it's the kind of thing that shows how much thought went into this design. Then, we get the Hulk. Peter refers to Bruce Banner, and Hulk immediately shuts it down. Not Bruce. Hulk. That's the confirmation. The Savage Hulk is back. Bruce Banner has been pushed down. This isn't Smart Hulk. It isn't Professor Hulk. It isn't some version of Bruce in control. This is the version of Hulk that existed before Avengers Infinity War changed everything. The one who threw Chitauri's soldiers around like toys in 2012. Now here's the question people are asking. Is Hulk being mind-controlled by the same entity running through everyone else? Based on the pattern we've talked about? Probably not. When this entity takes control of someone, it always finds a way to taunt Spider-Man directly. Scorpion did it. And in a previous trailer, the possessed character told Peter exactly where MJ was and what it would do to her. But what Hulk says here, that's pure Hulk. His entire identity is built around one thing. He is not Bruce Banner. He despises the idea of Banner sharing his body. That line isn't a taunt aimed at Spider-Man. It's a declaration about himself. It's something only Hulk would say, because only Hulk feels that way. The more likely read is that the entity triggered Hulk's transformation, forced the change, but once Hulk is out, he's operating on his own instincts, which honestly makes him more dangerous, not less. Also worth noting, Spider-Man appears to be using Shocker's gauntlet during this fight. We last saw that tech in Homecoming. The working theory is that there's a prison break earlier in the film, hand ninjas, Scorpion, possibly Shocker all getting out at once, and after Peter puts Shocker back in a cell, he keeps the gauntlet for situations exactly like this one. Will it actually work against Hulk? Probably not enough to stop him, but given what a normal human could do with it in Homecoming, launching a full city bus across a road, it's not nothing. Cut to MJ's apartment, and there are two details that don't get enough attention. First, her MIT degree is visible on the wall. She graduated. She's back in New York. And second, there are multiple cameras set up in her space. Photography, which in a nice bit of parallelism, is exactly Peter Parker's thing. The guy who used to sell Spider-Man photos to J. Jonah Jameson to keep the lights on. The swing sequence that follows shows something that casual viewers might miss. Mijur isn't panicking, she's not screaming or gripping Peter in terror the way she did in every previous film. She's ready. She trusts him completely, even after everything. That's a real character arc, and it's shown in a single shot. The hand ninja sequence has been visually upgraded from earlier trailers. The electric signatures running through their weapons are more visible, more pronounced. You can actually see the energy flowing through the blades now. And then Peter loses his mask mid-fight and starts going hand-to-hand. Two explanations. Either Peter has trained in martial arts over the years, which he absolutely does in the comics, eventually developing something called the Way of the Spider with Shang-Chi, or his evolving spider sense has reached a point where his body reacts faster than his conscious mind. The fact that his blocks are literally shattering their weapons suggests his power level is somewhere we haven't seen before. Here's what this final trailer does that's actually kind of remarkable for Sony. It tells you almost nothing about the actual story. There's no mention of Punisher, no sign of Peter's power evolution, no Sadia Islam. If this were the only trailer you'd ever seen, you'd just know Hulk shows up and there's a prison fight, and that is exactly the right call. Sony has historically been incapable of keeping their own secrets, and they've actually done it here. Whatever is at the core of this movie, it's still hidden. 2 weeks. That's what's left. Drop your biggest theory in the comments, specifically who you think is actually controlling everyone. If you're not subscribed and you've made it this far, now's the time. And if this breakdown helped, the like button is right there.